My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense.
It is not because they're not working hard enough. It's because for centuries, they were locked out of education. For centuries, they were locked out of economic mobility. They couldn't even build wealth.
What diversity, equity, and inclusion programs do is open opportunities to qualified, deserving people who worked hard.
Worried that by eliminating those programs, that certain people in our society are going to not have a fair shot.
Who are those people that start behind?
Well, first of all, let me just say that DEI, and it's a construct of DEI, hasn't even been around long enough to even make that kind of a claim.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. Un-American policies like affirmative action, DEI, are being done with, are being ended, are being erased from our culture, and the left is absolutely losing it. I'll give you my thoughts on this, but first let me show you a clip of Abby Phillips on CNN claiming victimhood from a multimillionaire black woman. This is complete nonsense. Let's go.
The Republican Party, Donald Trump, his vice president, called her a DEI hire. Yes. Said that she was
didn't
not.
call her a DEI hire.
I'm not talking about you. I said the people running for office against her called her a DEI hire. To your point, everything is being blamed on DEI. California fires, DEI. Trump's shooting, the rally at the Trump shooting, DEI, even though the head of his detail is a white man. Right-wing commentators talking about plane safety, saying planes are going to crash because of DEI.
But to that point, you had a video of a firefighter in Los Angeles, right, talking about the diversity in recruitment and saying that a person who gets themselves trapped in a fire is their own fault. Okay. You have to see how ridiculous the American public views that.
That happened. But Joe, did they cause the wildfire?
No one caused the wildfire.
Did that individual or even that ideology prevent the Los Angeles Fire Department from putting out a wildfire, 5 wildfires?
But it's saying that particular firefighter is saying that she, I don't want to misgender her and get more trouble, but she is unable to lift someone out of a fire, and it's the person's fault.
Does that have anything to do with the wildfires and the ability to stop
I think a person's ability to carry someone out of a fire is a pretty
I'm talking about the wildfires and the ability to stop them. What does that have to do with it?
I don't think DEI was responsible for setting a fire. That's not what they were saying.
It clearly was not.
But that's what people
was not responsible for being able to put out the fire as well.
Also, I hear you, and I'm glad you don't think discrimination should happen. But our sitting president actually does, because he discriminated against black people. He did not want them to be able to rent from him. And he has yet to repent for it and say it is wrong. It is something that is woven into our country. And I understand that folks feel like DEI has gone too far. But disparities exist for a reason. And DEI was a tactic to ensure that people had equal opportunity. Now, I think the numbers will speak for themselves. I think, and I also, again, this goes back to the immigration thing. This whole snitch on people that Donald Trump, they better be careful, because Donald Trump sits next to people that might get snitched on themselves.
Snitches get stitches. Be careful.
I didn't want to say it. I was waiting for you. You're from New York.
Let's talk about equal opportunity, right? Because this is what this is all about. It's about opening up the doors and removing the barriers that have existed for decades. Right? There is a reason why black people in this country only have 15% of the wealth as white people. So what are you telling us? Are you telling us that we are unqualified, unsmart, that we're not actually operating based on merit? Why is it that we have a culture?
There was affirmative action for white men for literally hundreds of years in this country. For hundreds of years, there was affirmative action for white men. And to answer your question, because my friend Abel would not, it is not because they're not working hard enough. It's because for centuries, they were locked out of education. For centuries, they were locked out of economic mobility. They couldn't even build wealth. They were set free in this country after being enslaved for hundreds of years with nothing. And then they were subject to another 100 years of Jim Crow. So look,
and
there are a lot of reasons for it, but it's not because they're not working hard enough.
It perpetuates generation to generation. I would just encourage people who disagree with DEI to take time to sit down and have a conversation with a person of color who feels like DEI has helped them or has been discriminated against. Because again, when you put a face behind an actual issue, it makes you understand the issue better.
Yeah, you can't claim that the system is inherently racist when you had a black president for 8 years. And Abby Phillips, a multimillionaire black woman who is on CNN, who hosts this show, crying about victimhood and slavery. Look, you can make a case that, decades and decades ago, there were injustices done to many people, right? Black people, women, gays. We're not there anymore. And you can't rectify injustices that were done in the past by creating injustices today. We fought a war to be all equal and to free the slaves. Could you make a case also that maybe back then when that happened, something could have been done to help these people out? Maybe. But today, you can't cry about the country being systemically racist or that you are not getting chances offered to you today because of something that happened to your forefathers. That is ridiculous. America is not systemically racist. We had a black president, the highest position in the country, for 8 years. There are no laws out there that are made to solely advance white people. But stuff like DEI and affirmative action, and CRT being taught in school, those are anti-white policies. And she mentions that there's only a few black women CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. That's true. But this is sheer mathematics. There are going to be more men CEOs because men are going to be more likely to want to sacrifice their whole lives for a work goal more than women. And also, it's sheer numbers. It's sheer mathematics. There's more white people than black people. Black people represent 13% of the population. 13% of the population is going to be represented at 13% at all levels. You talk about black women in CEO positions. Black women are about 7% of the populations. How many of those people want to be CEOs? It's just math, okay? They're probably represented at a good amount. But is this the game that they want to play? Because if you look at a commercial on TV, black people are represented at way higher than 13%. Let's get back to it.
CNN analyzed the proposed budgets of 20 federal agencies. HHS, for example, requested $113 million in its budget for training for diversity in the health workforce. And the Department of Defense asked for $50 million to fund DEI-related activities. That amount accounts for just 0.006% of the department's total budget request, according to a spokesperson. The Biden administration expanded DEI protections to a broader group of Americans, including women, rural communities, military spouses, and caregivers.
What diversity, equity, and inclusion programs do is open opportunities to qualified, deserving people who worked hard. It's not about dictating hiring decisions or filling quotas.
And while we don't know exactly how many of these federal employees will be impacted by today's actions, what we can say is that the actions that we are seeing by the Trump administration here to roll back all DEI will certainly reverberate into communities throughout the country when you talk about taking away grants and policy programs that benefit many of these underserved communities. One other note on this issue of them asking for call-outs for people within these agencies who may have information on federal employees who may have been disguising certain DEI initiatives. We should note CNN reported just last week that there were federal employees within these agencies working to quietly edit job descriptions and policy descriptions because they feared this very day would come, Wolf.
All right, Renee. Guys, I have a couple of clips here of Markwayne, Mullin, and Byron Donald. Then I'll give you my thoughts at the end of the video. Let's go.
So are you worried that by eliminating those programs that certain people in our society are going to not have a fair shot?
Who are those people that start behind? Because I grew up in Indian country. I live on the same place that my family got forced to move to before 1840. I'm the first one in my family to ever be in politics. I started business when I was 20 years old from necessity. I didn't get handed anything other than an opportunity because the family needed help, and I took advantage of it. So I had a bad speech impediment. I was never supposed to even be able to play sports because my feet were turned in and my hips were out of place. But I didn't allow it to use it as an excuse. I just took every opportunity that came to me and I gave 100%. So tell me who you're talking about, because we have the civil rights already in the United States where we're not able to discriminate against anyone, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion, regardless of their skin color or their sexual preference. So explain to me who you say that's at a disadvantage inside the United States, because we all had the same opportunity. Only in America we can grow up and be here.
We can talk about the redlining that went on for decades that the federal government actually sponsored, that forced black people, wouldn't allow them to live in the same neighborhoods.
I'm talking about today, Alex. I'm talking about today. I'm talking about what's happening in my lifetime. I can't control what happened in the 60s. I can't control what even happened in the 70s. I definitely can't control what happened in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 30s, in the 20s, and the 1800s. That we came a long ways as a country. I can't let the fact that I was removed from our traditional land and my family was removed from our traditional land, and that's why Oklahoma is because not because white people settled, it's because Native Americans were forced there. I can't let that hold me back, but I know what my ancestors went through to get us to today, to give us all equal opportunity. Today we all have equal opportunity. I can't control the way we're raised. We all have a different path that we're raised. We all have a different background. And I've said that multiple times. We make decisions on the way we're raised and our life experiences. But we all, everybody in America right now has an opportunity. Just what are you going to do with that opportunity? It may not be a great opportunity today, but each day you take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of you, the next opportunity will be a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. It's just, are you willing to keep walking through those doors and being uncomfortable, or are you going to let your past or your circumstances hold you back? You can make the decision yourself. A lot of people, they get stuck in a rut and they don't want to get out of that rut. That's your choice, that you choose to stay in that rut. At some point you can jump out of the rut and you can get very uncomfortable because it's an uncharted territory, which I try to live by every single day. And a different door will open up for you, but you got to be willing to do it. And so today is not what we're talking about today's opportunities. I can't talk about what happened in the 60s and before, or even some after that. But today we all have the same opportunity.
Well, first of all, let me just say that DEI, and it's a construct of DEI, hasn't even been around long enough to even make that kind of a claim. We've had diversity viewpoints, diversity ideas, not just in the federal government, but in the private sector for decades. The equity piece that was really introduced during the Biden-Harris administration at the federal level is the one that has a cause of concern because it ignores merit, it ignores skill sets, it ignores the ability to actually do the job and puts your demographic criteria at the front of the line before your actual qualifications. Look, I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to make sure that people who are getting jobs are qualified to do them. That is most important. But you can't put just diversity for diversity's sake ahead of qualifications. It's not 1972. It's 2025. We're in a different phase in the United States of America. And so I would argue that, yes, meritocracy does matter, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever the case might be. You have to have the skill set. You have to have the merit in order to acquire these jobs. Your diversity or your intersectionality cannot be the driving force because that does discriminate against other people who might be more qualified for that job.
Yeah, they like to talk about white privilege. Imagine if you're a white kid in a trailer park in eastern Kentucky with your thick Kentucky accent. Are you going to tell this kid about his white privilege? These people are ludicrous. What is privilege today, though? I will say one thing is that if you grow up with a mother and a father in a household, two-parent household, who put good amount of time and effort into your upbringing, into your education, into giving you good morals, good ethic, that is what privilege is. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. If you're a black kid and you grew up in the same social economic class as a white kid, and you're a black kid with two parents at home and the white kid has a single mom household, the black kid is statistically more likely to do better, not end up in jail, to not end up incarcerated, not be pregnant if it's a girl. What matters is having two parents at home and not having a fatherless home more than anything. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.